Hey, everybody. JFB is back from vacation. We're going to talk about Kenny Omega's injury, double or nothing, breaking records already. It hasn't even happened. And then a serious injury to Big E. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Season 2, Episode 12 of Just Another FM
Podcast.
Hit the music. Coming to you live from the FN Worldwide Media Studios, located in parts unknown. It's just another FN podcast. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. The rumors of my demise have been overly exaggerated. I am the JFB, James from Boston. I'm back from the dead, baby.
JFB, did anyone ever tell you you have an amazing radio voice? Like, you could be like one of those top 10 countdown guys on the radio and our number one song this week. And I am Canada Dry, damn it. I'm the gingered up, bubbly son of a bitch.
Oh, yeah. So we are here. We decided that we wanted to pay respect. What's up, George Penning? We wanted to pay respect to a man that we admired pretty much his entire career. And it was, it's obviously, we're talking about Razor Ramon Scott Hall, who just recently passed on the 14th of March. But before we pay tribute to a great man, we figured, what the hell, let's start off how we always start off, and that's with the news.
The news.
Oh, the news that's fit to read.
Do you know what some news is? We just had Liam's show yesterday.
Yeah.
And it did amazing.
Awesome.
So our newest show, The Magic of Wrestling with Liam. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, he's part of the FN Wrestling Network. We're just adding podcasts left and right. If you have a podcast and you want to get on with it, come see us. We're not
going to say yes for sure. Come on, we're not taking any podcast.
We're not handing out podcasts like you look under your chair, you get a podcast, and you get a podcast. We're not like that. But you have a decent
do a podcast about knitting. They're called the Nitwits.
Well, call it. We're going to do crocheting next, and it's going to be called the Happy Hooker. The Happy Hooker. Let's get to our news really quick. Big E took a nasty bump about 2 weeks ago. He did break his C1 and his C6. No surgery, luckily, is going to be required, which is good news. Bad news is, and I've done a little research on this, the C1 controls all your pulmonary and all your radial. So, Big E is optimistic, as well as he should be, that he's going to make a full recovery and get into the ring. And obviously with Edge and Kurt Angle and their recent neck injuries going into their careers, a second Can Do a podcast, which I'll podcast about. So we're optimistic, but a lot of doctors are saying that Big E is probably not going to wrestle again.
Really?
Yeah. But, doctors,
They said that about Edge, and they said that about Bryan. So.
Yep. And they said that about Kurt Angle as well.
That neck is such a rough spot. You could be paralyzed for life if you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it was a nasty bump. I rewatched it again, and it just nothing. And that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people are giving hate to Ridge Holland. Listen, it's not his fault. You know, he's a stiff worker. We know that. But I don't think it was his fault. And I don't think anybody should send him
sometimes
any hate mail.
it's just you land the wrong way.
Yeah. It was just a circumstance.
Yeah.
Apparently, according to PW Insider, Cody Rhodes has officially signed with WWE. He did do that about 10 to 14 days ago. The rumor is internally he is scheduled to take on Seth freaking Rollins at WrestleMania, probably on Sunday.
I'm hearing reports that he won't show up till the Monday Night Raw after Mania.
I mean, who knows what's
saying
going on?
that and I can see WWE doing that. But
Yeah.
I think that's a dumb idea.
Yeah, and I think honestly, you know, Seth Rollins was kind of dropping hints about, you know, him needing a WWE opponent for WrestleMania. He didn't want to miss WrestleMania. He kind of dropped. He kind of dropped a few hints that it was probably going to be Cody. So who knows? But as we say here at Just Another Different Podcast, until he actually shows up and is in a ring, who knows what the hell's going on with Cody Rhodes?
So did you hear about the news this morning? This is breaking news.
Yeah.
AEW has formed a partnership with DDT Wrestling.
I did not.
So
Really?
yeah, this is breaking news this morning.
Oh.
So yeah, they formed a partnership. So maybe that doll Kenny Omega had a match with will show up in AEW.
Well, speaking of Kenny Omega is recovering from surgery. He's going to be out for about a few months. I don't think he's going to be at. I don't think he's going to be at Double or Nothing. He might make an appearance, but I don't see him actually getting into a ring and wrestling for a while. But you know, you got to get in shape because that doll is going to kick his ass.
Can you answer Dallas's question? What is DDT Wrestling?
I can. It's a Japanese independent promotion. That's where Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi actually got their stars. The Golden Lovers was in DDT in Japan. So, yeah, there's a lot of young, hungry talent in DDT. I don't watch them as much as I used to, but you know, I have a feeling that it's good to get this Japanese talent and give them an audience that they can really, really knock out.
Well, yeah, a little bit of people are critical over this because of some of the silly stuff that happens in DDT.
Yeah, they do a lot of silly stuff. Yeah. You know, Kenny Omega wrestled a 10-year-old girl. They have weird matches, and they're an eccentric promotion. We'll put it that way. That's the nicest way to put it. They're eccentric.
But just because you have eccentric stuff doesn't mean they're not quality wrestlers.
No, yeah, they do have some great matches. Go on YouTube and look them up. They are absolutely amazing. So at Supercard 15 for Ring of Honor, now currently owned by Tony Khan, it's going to be the Briscoes, who are the tag champs, versus FTR. That's right, folks. You are finally going to get your wish and see FTR take on the Briscoes, and hopefully for a title. So they'll be interesting. Tony Khan.
Okay, so I got to ask you, since we're talking about FTR,
yeah,
I got to ask you, what do you think the chances of Bret Hart being their manager? They're hinting at it. Bret Hart going to AEW?
Yeah, he's going to AEW. I see it as 99.9999%.
Wow, 99%. I love it. I'm hoping that you're right.
I'm thinking, because with the Owen Hart, tournament that's coming up in May, I don't see how you cannot have Bret installed in AEW and contributing in some way, shape, or form. But I think you might not see him right away, and I think it would be great if he showed up as their manager at the Ring of Honor Supercard 15. That would be freaking bonkers. I would love that. Bianca Belair is injured. Will most likely miss WrestleMania. It's an undisclosed injury. So
it's our sister show, the magic of wrestling.
The magic of wrestling, baby. Odds on Bret Hart's he's got to be going there. Stone Cold Steve Austin is going to actually close Saturday night's WrestleMania. He is scheduled to close out WrestleMania on Saturday night. Obviously, he's going to be in a contest with Kevin Owens. I don't know why that blanked all of a sudden. But yeah, I mean, Kevin Owens versus Stone Cold is stunner versus stunner. But to close out a WrestleMania your first night, I don't know about that. Alex Haney.
We got Haney with the booing of the Stone Cold.
He's already booing cheese. Jeez Louise. So Double or Nothing.
Him the Adam Lambert of AFW.
So Double or Nothing actually broke a record. The pay-per-view hasn't even come out. There's no matches. There's no card. There's no speculation yet. Actually broke gate records for a non-WWE event. How awesome is that when you don't even have a card posted yet with what the matches are going to be, and already you are breaking records for a non-WWE. This is in Vegas. This is going to be in Las Vegas.
I think people are pumped for them to return. This is going to be huge.
Yeah. So WWE got a big.
This is going to surpass Revolution by so much.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Ring of Honor's former women's champ Roxy, who happens to be Santino Marella's daughter, signs officially with the WWE.
We're needing a new Ring of Honor champion.
They're going to need it. Well, she was let go from her contract, so she was already let go.
So we don't have a current women's champion, is what you're saying.
That's true. There's no current Ring of Honor champion at Ring of Honor for women.
Well, we got to get Natalia in there and take that damn belt.
That's what I'm saying. She's the belt collector. Let's get her in Ring of Honor, damn it. Yeah. Killer Kross is going to debut at New Japan Pro Wrestling on April 1st. This is exciting news for Killer Kross. He's getting into bigger promotions.
Oh, right. Donna Purrazzo is the ROH Women's Champ.
Oh, I did not know that. Well, I'm all for that. I love Donna Purrazzo.
Yeah, Deonna Purrazzo.
She's also the AAA Women's Champion as well. So go Deonna, because she's from the Northeast. She's from my area. So I got to give her much love. Queen Sharmell is joining the Hall of Fame for WWE. She's joining the Taker and Vader at the WWE Hall of Fame. This one was kind of a head scratcher. She got her start as a Nitro girl. She married Booker T. She was the queen when he was the King of the Ring winner.
You know what? I didn't know that Sharmell was a Nitro girl.
Yeah, she was a Nitro girl. That's how she got started.
And so Booker T's like, oh, look at this Nitro girl over here.
Yeah.
He pulled a DDP and married her.
Yeah. And so for those who are wondering about the Control Your Narrative promotion from EC3 and Adam Scherr, formerly known as Braun Strowman, you'll be happy to know that they came out with their rules. Here they are as listed. The first rule, you are in control. I hope so. I hope, in all seriousness, you're in control. Number 2, you are in control in capital letters. They're reinforcing you're in control.
You're really in control now.
Yeah, you're super in control right now. Third rule, the fight ends when you tap out, get knocked out, can't stand, or quit. Sanction matches can end via pinfall. This is sounding a lot more like Fight Club than it is a wrestling promotion. And they're breaking the first 2 rules of Fight Club, which is you don't talk about Fight Club, but you are in control.
Well, that's it's a wrestling promotion. You got to get it out there. You got to get this
out. The 4th rule, standard professional wrestling rules apply for sanctioned matches. Chaos ensues in the project pit. I feel like they're going to be wrestling and fighting like in a dank, dark basement. Like there's no arena.
The one that Shane McMahon was running?
The Raw Underground? Yeah. That I have a feeling like that's where it's going to go. Here's the one that really got me. I actually got a snicker from me. The 5th rule, no super kicks, no tope suicidas, and for God's sakes, no Canadian destroyers. They're obviously very anti-Canadian, and very anti really cool moves. You know, no super kicks, so the Young Bucks will not appear.
So you're not controlling your narrative then, because you're banned from doing these things.
You are not in control. You're in control, except for this. You're not in control. The sixth rule: the fight isn't with your opponent; it's with yourself. So now we're getting a little deep. We're getting philosophical, you know, which, you know, not a lot of wrestling promotions kind of deal with the id and the ego and super ego, which is what we're dealing with here. The seventh rule: fights will go on as long as they have to. Sanctioned matches hit their time limits. I don't know what that means. I mean, how are they going to differentiate between a sanctioned match and an unsanctioned match?
Okay, so where are they even broadcasting this?
I have no idea. It's got to be online.
Thing or what?
Supposedly they got a TV deal. I don't know where, and you know, it's not looking good. The final rule: if you want to control your narrative, you have to fight. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we've learned today, our under the learning tree with the JFB and Canada Dry is this: you're in control. You have to fight yourself. You have to control your narrative. Those are the rules. 8 rules. You are in control was done twice. This thing reeks of like it's going to be like 1 or 2 weeks, and then it's gone. I don't see this lasting, you know, much longer than that. But yeah, no super
kicks. I think it's a horrible name for a wrestling promotion. It's a great name for a faction, but a name of a company is Control Your Narrative.
Yeah, it sounds more like you know, like one of those weekend promotions where you pay $150 and Tony Robbins tells you to take control of your narrative, do this and do that, control your life.
Do you want to stop being overweight? Do you want a fancy brand new Corvette? Do you want women like this by your side?
Yeah.
You have to learn to control your narrative. I'm going to teach you how. Just write the checks over to Just Another Effing Podcast, and we will teach you how to do that.
Yes. You want to learn how to predict like the big boys? $200 and cash only money order. We don't take personal
included in that? A lunch with Dallas Branham.
Yeah.
Not kidding. You will set you up on a blind date with Dallas Branham. What? You're not gay? That's okay. Dallas has a way of converting you.
All it takes is just that one lunch. You're going to fall in love with
that
Dallas.
Wink that just like mystifies the straight dudes.
We love you, Dallas. We love you. But we are going to pimp you out. That's just you're part of Evan Wrestling. We're just going to pimp you out.
We pimping.
It's just what's going to happen. It's what's going to happen. So that's our news.
The biggest news is Dallas is converting people.
Yeah, Dallas is going to convert you. That's the takeaway. Control your narrative. Dallas is going to make you switch. You know, he's got that way about him, man. It's that smile. That smile will captivate anybody. So now we got our news out of the way. Let's get to our main event, our big portion, our entree, if you will. We're going to talk about Scott Hall. So let's get to the main event.
Gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
That is Scott Hall, ladies and gentlemen.
That is such a great. Can we put that up again?
Yeah.
Just like look at how good he looks there.
Yeah.
The bad guy.
Yep. Gold around my neck, and gold around my waist.
Exactly.
You can't beat him. He was.
Can you do your Scott Hall impression?
Hey yo, I got gold around my neck and gold around my waist.
Say hello
to the bad guy.
Bad guy.
I was almost going to start the podcast with a toothpick in my mouth.
I think it would have been fine.
So before we get into the life of Scott Hall, we wanted to pay tribute to him as a wrestler, and specifically what we did is normally we do top 10. We decided to do top 5. The top 5 matches that we feel really exemplify Scott Hall as either Razor Ramon or as Scott Hall. And the number 5, the Royal Rumble, that's easy to say, Royal Rumble 93 versus Bret Hart. Only being in the WWE for 4 months, Vince tapped Hall as Razor Ramon to take on the world champ, who was Bret Hart at the time, for the title. These guys tore the place down, and for Hall, it was a chance to prove himself that he could hang with the bigger names. Hart would put him in the sharpshooter after Hall worked Hart's ribs throughout the match, and Hall took the loss. Of course, Bret got the win. Probably one of my all-time favorite Bret Hart matches is definitely one of my all-time favorite Scott Hall matches as Razor Ramon. Do you remember that match?
So what I liked about this, not just the match, but the feud between Razor and Bret, is poor Owen. He's tag teaming with Coco Beware and High Energy, and they use Owen as a pawn and beat the crap. Scott Hall beats the crap out of him, and Bret comes in with his cheesy. I'm going to defend my family's honor, and defend it I will do. I was like, that was the worst promo I ever heard.
I mean, for me, it was a great technical match. You had Hall, who was the heel. He really worked over Bret Hart's ribs. He kept targeting the ribs over and over and over again. And then eventually, with Bret selling the hurt ribs, was able to turn around, put him in the sharpshooter and the match.
A few years ago, I found a box of WWF VHS tapes.
Yeah.
And Royal Rumble 93 was one of the cassettes I found. And
very cool.
I watched that main event over and over again, so I know all about that match. It was great.
Yeah, it was a great match. It really was. Our number 4 is, of course, from Monday Night Raw on May of 93 versus the 1-2-3 Kid. Hall was many things.
Let's answer Liam's question here.
Do you guys think WWE should have a tribute at Mania for Hall? I think so. I mean, they didn't really do a 10-bell salute, which I was really surprised, being as how important he was to the beginning of the end of the golden era and getting into the whatchamacallit, the Attitude Era. So it's very interesting that I think they should. What do you think?
Oh, definitely. They got to do some big video package. But a question that's weighing on all the viewers' mind: do you have like a guest dog over at your house?
No, my wife's not in town, so my dogs are going nuts.
Oh, okay. I thought that maybe you had a guest dog.
No. They're just acting like a bunch of idiots.
This is just how they are.
Yeah, the official dogs of Just Another Effing Podcast have decided they want to join in. So, yeah, I'm glad everybody can hear it, though. This is going to be fun editing. So, Rob, from May of 93 to 1-2-3 Kid, I mean, Hall was many things in his title run, in his run with WWE, but he'll always be known as the man that put over Sean Waltman as the 1-2-3 Kid. Hall is Razor Ramon, has main evented pay-per-views, fought for top belts. So when Hall met Waltman, no one saw that upset coming. Waltman beat him, scored a second upset weeks later, and then turned face for the rest of his WWE run. I'm going to let my dogs out. I'll be right back. I know it's live.
I will talk about this match.
Yeah, you talk about this match. I'll be back in 1 second.
Let the dogs out. Who let the dogs out? JFB, let the dogs out. Okay, so this match I remember for one reason is that they got that baby bottle, and Scott Hall was making fun of the 1-2-3 Kid, saying, "Why don't you drink your bottle?" And do you remember the baby bottle that Scott Hall was bringing with him to the ring?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness, they worked so good together. This feud made 1-2-3 Kid into a star.
Yeah.
And that match he had with Bret Hart, this match made it possible.
Yeah. What was so funny is the running gag was Waltman had different names. For every week, he had a different nickname that he was introduced as. And it wasn't until he beat Scott Hall the first time that he started going as the 1-2-3 Kid.
What was he called? Do you know?
The Lightning Kid. There were like so many. It was a running gag. Every week, he'd have a different nickname. The Lightning Kid was the one I remember. And then when he beat, Razor, he got known as the 1-2-3 Kid. And then, of course, that was,
This was a Monday Night Raw. Yeah,
it was Monday Night Raw. It was in May of '93. It is on the channel. It's on the Peacock for the WWE.
Interesting fact about Scott Hall, he was on the very first Monday Night Raw.
He was, and it was an interview with Vince McMahon. Yeah, he was the opening thing for the first Monday Night Raw was Scott Hall. I mean, that's how important he was to this company as a character. Razor Ramon was over even before he stepped in the ring. Those montages were amazing. Those little stingers that you saw introducing Razor Ramon, which were all done by Bruce Pritchard, really built that character up so that the second he hit that ring, he was literally as over can get. So our number 3, SummerSlam 95 versus Shawn Michaels. This is the sequel that had a lot to live up to and was just as compelling as the original. Shawn worked as the heel, but Hall kept working the knee, showing Vince that he could work his heel as well. As this was added late to the card, there was absolutely no storyline leading up to it, but they still tore the house down.
So who was champ at that point?
Shawn Michaels was the champ.
Right, because he won the previous one.
Yeah. So he was the champ going into SummerSlam in 95. Again, WWE is notorious for when crap goes wrong, let's just put together 2 guys, no storylines. Let's just put them together and get them out there and wrestle. And I mean, what are you going to do? It's a good thing that Shawn and Razor are not only friends outside of the ring, they have this great chemistry in the ring, obviously from WrestleMania 10. They tore the house down. I mean, to me, I watched SummerSlam 95. It was the best match. That was the best match of the card. I don't think there was another match that even got close to it.
No,
what do you think?
So. I thought that match stole the show. And what was the main event on that show?
I don't even remember. It was 2 weeks ago I watched this.
but Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels, like those two. Yeah. You know what? The great thing about Scott Hall is he is a giant.
Yeah.
But he didn't wrestle like one. He wrestled like Bret Hart. He wrestled like Shawn Michaels. He wrestled in that same sort of style. Like everyone else, and I love that because the big man wrestling isn't fun to watch.
It definitely is not. It's different. I mean, it's
it can still be entertaining, but it's not as good as watching someone like Bret or Shawn Michaels or Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, he fit the bill. He was the giant that Vince loved, but he was so light on his feet. He was so light in the ring. He had great ring intelligence, and his ring IQ was as good as Bret Hart and Owen and any of those guys who had, Randy Macho Man Savage. I mean, he had a great ring IQ, and that's a huge plus when you're dealing with, a 6 foot plus, 6'5" plus body and still be able to be nimble in the ring like that. So our number 2 is going to be a WCW match, and that is going to be the Bash at the Beach 96 versus Sting, Luger, and Macho Man. Hall with Nash in a 3-on-2 handicap match showed that he was the go-to worker WCW knew they had. He took all the bumps, and he put the story ahead of his ego. Of course, this is the match that birthed the New World Order, and I think it established Hall as the workers wrestler, like he was in WWE with the Intercontinental belt, which was the belt that was given to the guy who did the best work. he was that in WCW as well. You know, he was tasked with doing most of the wrestling. It wasn't Hogan. It
And
really
the mic
wasn't
work.
Nash. What's that?
And the mic work. Scott Hall was
Oh,
the
yeah.
center focus of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. He was
Before,
a pivotal person in that group. And no matter how many people they added to it, no matter how many times Hogan won the championship or him and Nash won the tag team, it was Hall's work that put the NWO over, you know.
I was talking to Joseph Graham the other day, and he did the quote, "You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here."
Yeah.
And I just thought
It
that
was
was so cool.
It was so brilliant. You know, they set up that invasion angle so well. You know, we're the guys from the Northeast. We used to wrestle for another big company. They say this is where the big guys play.
Well, Bischoff even asked Hall and Nash, "Do you work for WWE? Do you?" And they both said no to cover legal reasons, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got a CYA cover your ass at all times. Yeah. So our number one, I think we referenced it already. I think this is pretty much everybody's number one for Scott Hall, and that is the WrestleMania 10 versus Shawn Michaels. This was the very first true ladder match. Now, Bret Hart is, yeah.
So we got both champions. Like, how did that go about that we have two Intercontinental champions?
So Shawn got injured, and so he was the Intercontinental champion. He had to forfeit the belt, and it was a tournament. Shawn and Scott Hall won. Scott Hall became the IC champion. Here comes Shawn Michaels coming back saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. I was never beaten. Nobody ever pinned me. Nobody made me submit. I'm the champ. And so you had that dual championship that went on for weeks, even months. And then it accumulated at WrestleMania 10. This was basically the greatest match. This is one of my top 3 matches of WrestleMania of all time. A ladder match between the champ, Hall, and the man who never lost the belt, Shawn Michaels. These two men introduced the ladder match to fans, but raised the bar high, daring people to try to eclipse it. Everything from the ring chemistry to the storytelling made this match of the year and a classic of all time. You know, Bret Hart is the one who initially came up with the idea for a ladder match. He's done ladder matches, dark matches with a ladder match.
Yeah, I think he did that a lot in Stampede.
Yeah, he did a lot of it in Stampede.
And so he wanted to bring it to WWF.
Yeah.
And I guess Vince McMahon gave this idea to them.
It was Vince. It was Pat Patterson. There were a lot of working parts in getting this ready. And you know, they went through the match, the stories that they've talked about. Scott Hall's talked about numerous times that they spent weeks training specifically for this match to make sure that the moves look natural, that the moves look devastating, and at the same time sold to the audience.
Even though Bret brought it to WWF, it was Scott Hall and Shawn Michaels who debuted this match and made it what it was.
Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. I
thought that match, it set the precedence for all the ladder matches after.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there have been some great ladder matches over the years. Have any of them bypassed this one? Not in a long shot. It was just so different and so over the top that it worked. And I think that now these ladder matches, like your Money in the Bank and the ladder matches in AEW, they're great. And there have been some amazing ladder matches since, but I don't think any of them got close to the storytelling and, eclipsing the importance of the ladder match with Scott and Shawn, for sure. You know,
I want to just mention what Joseph Graham said there about Scott Hall selling the stunner in the new WWE NWO. When he had that match with Stone Cold at Mania, he sold that stunner. So I haven't seen someone sell a stunner like that.
Yeah.
No one can be compared to how he sold that stunner. It was great.
He was so he was so smooth in how he sold the moves and how he sold how he took it. It wasn't over the top like Ric Flair in his later years or Shawn Michaels or any of those guys. It was always how a person should take a bump if you're going to get a stunner in real life. He made it look legit.
I think this idea from Haney is gold. They should create the Scott Hall ladder match.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is more fitting than paying homage to the guy who made the ladder match as popular as it was. So we talked about Scott Hall's top 5 matches, and I think there's plenty. I mean, there were quite a few in WCW. There were quite a few in WWE, but those were the 5 that really stood out to us. And really defined his career. I mean, you want to talk about a career. He was a one-time AWA tag team champion with Curt Hennig. He was a WCW TV champion. He was a 2-time WCW US heavyweight champion. He was a 7-time WCW tag team champion, 6 with Nash, 1 with the Giant. He was a 4-time WWE Intercontinental champion. And he is in the Hall of Fame not once, but freaking twice. Once as Razor and once as part of the NWO. That is a resume that almost nobody has. Not even close. He's had some great gimmicks before.
In that time period where he masked up that resume.
Yeah.
WWF, WCW, he was only in both for 4 years each.
Yeah.
I was talking with Joseph about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That he was able to make the impact in both companies in just 8 years. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. He started in 84, 85 in the NWA. He tagged with Dan Spivey. He was known as Starship Coyote. He actually trained under Dusty, Barry Windham, and Mike Rotunda. So you're talking about probably the 3 smartest guys in terms of ring IQ. How to work a match, how to work the crowd.
Yeah, definitely.
Dusty is known for his finishes. If you listen to Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, anytime that they need an ending to a match, it was always called Dusty. Dusty knows how to end these matches. And so Barry Windham, Mike Rotunda, I mean, at those times, those guys were...
Barry Windham is the perfect guy to teach Scott Hall how to wrestle as a big guy.
Yeah.
But I don't think he wanted to just be a big guy. I think he wanted to steal the show.
Yeah. And like I said, we talked about it. He's nimble. When he went to the AWA, he teamed with Curt Hennig. They won the tag team belts. He went to New Japan for a little bit. He was in WWE for about 3 or 4 months. He left, went to WCW. He was known as the Diamond Stud when he was teamed up with Diamond Dallas Page as a manager. Because let's not forget, DDP hasn't always been a wrestler. He was a manager for like a couple.
He was in the honky tonk man, Pink Cadillac going to WrestleMania.
Yeah. I mean, Diamond Dallas Page was not a wrestler until almost his late 30s, early 40s, which goes to show that no matter how old you are, you can still take a bump. Damn it. He went back to WWF in '92 as Riz Ramon. Those packages, those
can we back it up here just a tiny bit?
Yeah.
So Vince McMahon had a different idea for Scott Hall's character.
Yeah. Tell the story.
This was supposed to be a G.I. Joe character. Yeah. He was going to be your American hero. And I'm so glad, because that would have been horrible. I think Scott Hall could have pulled it off, but
yeah. Well, what's funny was when the story with that Scott always told was when he came up with the idea of Razor Ramon after he started quoting Tony Montana lines from Scarface.
Yeah, he said, "Have you heard of Scarface?" He told me, "Have you heard of Scarface?" And
yeah. And he started doing the voice with the accent, and Vince's eyes lit up, and so did Bruce Pritchard. And Bruce Pritchard has told this story a couple of times too, where he said, "Holy shit, that's the character right there." You know, those vignettes, him in Miami, in the Cadillac with the top down, the chains hanging out in the hood, you know, in the barrios of Miami, were just brilliant because you were drawn to know who the hell is this guy and what can he do? You know, because it was months before he actually debuted. So you were getting vignettes literally every single week on Superstars.
And they worked it up perfectly to come out the same time as Raw, that they can debut together.
Yeah. I mean, it was so precise, you know, and people can say what they will about Vince McMahon, but every once in a while he shits a golden egg, and he did it with Taker, he did it with Hogan, he did it with Stone Cold and The Rock, he did it with Razor Ramon. He crapped a golden egg in that character, and it you know, again, he was only there for 4 years.
Well, they tried to sue, I don't know who won this or not. They sued WCW for the Scott Hall character being too much like Razor.
Yeah. And of course, their response was they lost the lawsuit. Their response, of course, was fake Razor and fake Diesel, which was horrible because, it was just, I mean, all of a sudden Scott Hall in WWF was like about 40 pounds heavier than Scott Hall was and about 5 inches too short, you know? And I mean, it was so horrible. And I feel bad because Glenn Jacobs, who went on to become Kane, was fake Diesel. And I mean, they didn't look anything like those characters. They looked horrible. So he left to go back to WCW in 96. Of course, he formed the NWO with Nash and Hogan. You know, from there, he kind of, you know, after he left WCW, he went to TNA for a while. He was an X Division champion there. He went to various independents.
He went to Japan and put over Ibushi.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he gave him the 1, 2, 3 kid treatment.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that you can say about Scott Hall's wrestling career simply is this: he put people over. Yeah. He didn't bury anybody. He's not Triple H. You know, he's not. Some people say Cody buries people. He's not. You know, he didn't bury a single person. If he thought it was good for the story, he was all for it. And you know, I mean, he's got 8 inches and about 100 pounds over Sean Waltman when Waltman was the 1, 2, 3 kid. And he put him over, you know, and I mean, that says a lot about who you are as a person in this
Scott
business.
Hall is credited with so many wrestling ideas. I don't have any offhand, but I remember hearing different ideas. Oh, that was Scott Hall's idea for me.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that several times about different wrestlers.
Yeah, he had an amazing mind for the business. You know, we talk about guys like Macho Man and Dusty and, you know, Arn Anderson. There's not a lot there. You can put them on both hands. The number of guys who have a great mind for the business. Raven is another one who's got a great mind for the business. Tommy Dreamer is another one. Guys who understand the psychology of the business they're in. You know, you're not there to sell. You know, you're there to sell merch, but you're there to put butts in seats. And holy cow, he put butts in seats all the time.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, Chase.
Yeah, I'll agree with that too, Chase. You know, he said I would argue that Scott Hall was probably one of the greatest to never win the belt. You know, I have a feeling we're going to do a top 10 list.
And if he didn't have those demons, I think he would have had it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about those demons.
Okay, so let's talk the gun shooting of shooting the guy in the head.
Yeah, he was arrested in 83 and charged with second-degree murder while he was struggling with another guy over a gun. The charges were eventually dropped because there was just not enough evidence as to, he claimed it was self-defense. There was no evidence saying otherwise, so the charges were dropped.
So some drunken asshole is apparently giving some women a hard time.
Yep.
And big old Scott Hall decides he's going to take care of business.
Yeah.
And the guy pulls a gun on him out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And Scott Hall's wrestling with him, and it goes off and shoots the guy in the head.
Yeah. And he said that this profoundly affected his life. That he lived.
I think it led indirectly to his death.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been arrested several times where alcohol or drugs were involved. He's got a long history of drug abuse and alcohol abuse. The sad part about this is, and Kevin Nash even has come out and said that his alcoholism and his drug abuse stems from PTSD from that night with that shooting. I personally have never dealt with PTSD, but I know people who have, and it's tough when you're cemented in a event in your life that traumatically scars you, emotionally, mentally, and physically. It's hard to overcome that, and so it's not unusual for them to turn to drugs or alcohol to relieve that pain, and in some cases taking your own life. I mean, it was so sad that, even years later, and he talked about it in 2011, about how much that shooting really screwed him up, and wrestling at a time for a while was an escape for him. And when that wasn't enough, then he had to turn to alcohol and he turned to drugs. I think the sucky part about his drug and alcohol addiction was WCW, Bischoff used this as maybe it wasn't Bischoff, maybe it was, what's his name? Vince Russo, who used it as a storyline, where, Scott Hall was visibly drunk or visibly high. He was slurring his words. He was stumbling. It was horrible.
Well, I almost wonder if that wasn't a storyline, if it was just Scott Hall.
I mean, it very well could have been. I mean, it was just sucky to see WCW take advantage of that. Handy said it was Bischoff. It was horrible. I mean, there was no. I understand bringing real life events into the fantasy world of professional wrestling,
and wrestling always rides that line.
Yeah,
and they sometimes cross it. WWE has crossed it many times.
Yeah, they did it with the Road Warriors.
I hate it.
Yeah, they did it with Road Warrior Hawk, where he was dealing with demons at that time as well. Again, drinking and drugs, and they used that. And Road Warrior Animal, died because of it. Or Road Warrior Hawk. And yeah, so Haney brought up that Bischoff said he regretted it, as well as he should. I mean, I don't think, honestly, you should feel good about airing somebody's dirty laundry like that. And I don't know if Hall was for it and said, yeah, go ahead and do it, So he went to rehab in 2010. It was paid by the WWE, and while he was there,
WWE spent over $1 million on Scott Hall.
Yeah.
At rehab.
Yep.
That's crazy.
While he was in rehab, he had a defibrillator and a pacemaker put inside of him. He had a bad ticker, probably contributed from his drug and alcohol abuse. And then in 2011, he went to the hospital. Supposedly, he was having issues with heart palpitations. TMZ, who usually hits the nail right on the head, Actually found out it was for a drug overdose of opiates and lots of alcohol. That was probably the tipping point, because in 2013, Scott went to Dally, DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, and DDP brought him in his home to stay sober.
And we got to all see this on the documentary of Resurrection Jake the Snake.
Yes.
We also saw Scott Hall joining the family there. And we got to see it all happen before us.
Yeah. And you know, they did a fundraiser, which I contributed money to get a new hip for him. You know, he was having issues with his hip. DDP made a GoFundMe. I sent money in because wrestlers don't have health insurance, or they do, but they have to pay for it. It's not given by the WWE.
For someone who has a drug or alcohol problem, wrestling in the 80s and the 90s, it was such a place that it lends to that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, to be someone who doesn't use drugs or alcohol at all, you have to be set apart and really strong-minded in the kind of life you want to lead. And WWF and WCW, you know, it was almost encouraged to do cocaine. It was encouraged to do steroids. It was encouraged to, you know, have a party lifestyle. You were rock stars.
Yeah. And that, you know, and as with any professional sport, you know, doctors, you know, I have a good friend whose father was a professional football player, and he dealt with a drug addiction to opiates because they just, you know, oh, you know, my hamstring's kind of tight. Here's an opiate. Here's Oxy. Here's whatever. And they're just fed this stuff. And you'd start developing that habit. And I can't imagine that it's not the same in professional wrestling. You know, I mean, we've heard stories from CM Punk about, you know, they just willy-nilly write prescriptions for, you know, Z-Packs and this and that. You know, obviously steroid trial was a huge thing with Vince. And yeah, you know that they were just handing steroids out left and right to bigger name wrestlers to keep them in shape.
So even though in the last few years he's been clean because of his time at the DDP house, and we got in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yep.
We learned that his hip fall that required surgery was a result of a relapse. Yeah.
So, you know, he passed in March from complications due to a fall. He broke his hip. They went and did surgery. A clot got dislodged. He suffered from 3 heart attacks. He was put on life support until Cody, his son, I can't remember his daughter's name, and his ex-wife, who, you know, he was still friends with his ex-wife. They came to his bedside. They pulled him off of life support. He survived for about another 4 hours. He was breathing on his own, and then he peacefully passed.
Well, before they put him on life support and all that stuff, and he was awake, he actually had a FaceTime call with Triple H, Shawn Waltman, and Shawn Michaels, and they got to talk to him one last time. Yeah, and just tell him what their friendship meant to him. And I thought that was really cool that they got to say goodbye to their friend.
Yeah. Kevin Nash was there. Kevin Nash was by his side when he passed. You know, we talk a lot about professional wrestling, the abuse that your body and your mind goes through, you know, being on the road 350 days out of the year, being constantly hit and beaten up. You know, Alex Haney says drugs isn't the real mental health, isn't the real issue. Mental health is. There's a lot of evidence to show that coming down from the crowd high is just as destructive as a drug one. I couldn't agree any more with that. I think he hit the nail on the head.
But then you want to keep that high going, and you self-medicate. So it's a kind of a combination.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm, before I started dealing with my mental health issues, I medicated myself. I self-medicated, and, I did it because it, one, it made me feel good. It made me forget what I was dealing with, all my anxiety and my depression. But, it gives you this sense of high where you feel invulnerable to anything that happens on the outside. And
sometimes what happens to me, I'm just doing my daily life.
Yeah.
And I relive my cat getting hit by a car.
Yeah.
And it spirals me into the sadness. I just start crying. I can't imagine what it would be like reliving shooting someone in the head.
Yeah.
That would be so traumatic.
Yeah.
Compared to my cat getting hit by a car.
Yeah. I mean, it's that stuff will mess you up. I mean, that stuff will literally mess you up for the rest of your life. And, obviously he didn't get the professional help for the mental aspect of it, the emotional aspect of it. And that stuff festers and it turns into a tumor, and that tumor cannot be taken care of. It can't be
You got to wonder about that $1 million that WWE spent. Were they just addressing the addiction, or were they addressing the under issues? Were they even bothering with the under issues?
I would imagine, I would imagine that they dealt more with the addiction aspect of it, the physical aspect of it, and very little on the mental issue. I mean, I know that a lot of these rehab places have a staff psychiatrist on there, have therapists that are there that kind of work with you. But, your initial problem is your addiction is the physical addiction, that physical high, that craving, that want, that need that you have to eliminate. You have to catch that next high. And that's what it's all about for an addict. You have to catch that next high. And you'll do whatever it takes to do it. Even if it means taking $50 from your mom's purse, you do what you need to do to get that fix.
Okay, so we're at about the 56-minute mark. Let's have closing thoughts each on Scott Hall.
I'll say this, and I'm going to quote from his Hall of Fame speech, which I think really honestly portrays Scott Hall the best. Hard work pays off. Dreams do come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do. He exemplified what it meant to be a top-notch professional wrestler. He busted his ass. He put his family second to his career. He fed and clothed and housed his kids and his wife at what cost? Well, 300 plus days of the year you're on the road. But that one line, that two lines from his Hall of Fame speech, I think echoes Scott Hall's career perfectly. What are your final thoughts on Mr. Hall?
My final thoughts are Scott Hall on the Jerry Springer show, just making those kids' life a little better. Yeah. And that's the real Scott Hall. Is just making those kids happy. That was really cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's there are going to be people out there who are going to say, yeah, but he was a drug addict. Yeah, he was a drunk. Yeah, he was this, he was that. I think real wrestling fans will remember him for his Razor Ramon, his Scott Hall, what he contributed to professional wrestling. I think it's very understated what he contributed. I think he doesn't get the recognition. He definitely deserves.
And I think this is a good thing before we transition to the end of the show. No one was as cool as Razor Ramon, Scott Hall character, bar none. No one.
No, nobody was cool. Nobody even touched him in his coolness. So that is it's machismo. That is our Scott Hall, our farewell to Scott Hall. It's a good tribute. We probably could go on for another hour and just talk about Scott Hall, but we ask that you think good about him. Don't reflect on the negativity of him. Reflect on what he contributed. and what he meant to professional wrestling, because he meant a lot, and he made a lot of fans happy. And that's what really matters. So, as always, you can go to our website, effingwrestling.com. You can check out all our social media links. We have our Facebook app. We have our Twitter accounts. We have our YouTube. You can link and subscribe and catch us live every Sunday and be entertained. And that's really what it's all about. We're just here to entertain you. You can, if you want to support the show, though, if you do, as you can tell, do unto others, the golden rule for AFW. You can always support us by going to our Pro Wrestling Tees website at prowrestlingtees.com/wrestling. There
you can see those new shirts we got.
I like those shirts. We have a Monday
Thunder
Nitro,
and the Nitro
and a Thunder shirts for our 2 wrestling promotions for AFW. It is awesome. I am, of course, going to order one probably this week. Coming up,
9 of those already.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
You can get the Touch Brothers. We're at Dynamite. They were shown on TV. You can get a Touch Brothers T-shirt. I have one. I wore it. Somebody asked me who the hell are the Touch Brothers, and I told them, hey, I'm part of this thing called AFW. It's a prediction league, and they are in my faction, and I support my boys. So, So prowrestlingtees.com/effingwrestling. And of course, you can go to our website, effingwrestling.com. We do a whole bunch of stuff there. We have, we do blog posts. We post all our stuff. Everything is there, guys. Everything is there.
All our social media.
What's that?
All our social media is there.
Yeah, all our social media. If it's social media, we're on it. It's linked there. So with that being said, we talked about briefly the NWO. I know Hulk Hogan paid tribute to him in his surf shop at his store. Did he impart any wisdom or any kind of tidings, if you will, towards Scott Hall when you talked to him this week?
Well, he said this, brother. He said, Scott Hall, you're the best wrestler that ever came into WCW, brother. And I'll always remember what you did for the wrestling business. And then things kind of took a sideways sort of. As you know, we run Adrian Adonis's Twitter.
Yeah.
And his PWT store. We have an old picture of Hulk Hogan and Adrian together, and he wants to know what's up with that. I was like, listen, just posting some pictures. And pretty much he hung up on me, and that was the end of that. So, F and Wrestling 621, Hulk Hogan 0, Canada Dry. Oh.
This has been an Effin' Worldwide Media production. You can find us on Twitter at All Effin' Wrestling or at Effin' Podcast. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Effin' Wrestling. After that, why don't you go ahead and throw a T on your back? You can find us on the Pro Wrestling Tee store at prowrestlingtees.com/Effin' Wrestling. You can find all of this at our new website, effingwrestling.com. And as always, have a great effing day.